Hi everyone, my name's Jake. I'm a certified financial planner, and after 12 years at two of the largest financial services companies in the world, I have decided to leave a great and stable job to start and launch my own RIA practice. The the YouTube content sphere really doesn't range into what does it actually look like to do this. There's a lot of content around how to do it and how to do it successfully. But the content that I'm generally interested in is kind of more watching people do and figuring out what feels good and natural to me that I can emulate and bring into my own practice. If you're somebody that is thinking about or has recently launched an RIA, then maybe this is the type of content that will help you get comfortable and give you some peace of mind around what this process looks like. So this channel is really going to be kind of my own personal diary of kind of what I'm going through, what the day-to-day looks like. You are finding me basically on day one of being self-employed. I left my job on Friday of last week. It is now Tuesday. My two young kids were home from daycare because of an in-service day yesterday. So today is really kind of the first full day where I'm doing this full time. Now, interestingly enough, the RIA itself, because to launch it, I need to file my U4, which would notify my previous employer. I don't actually have an RIA right now. The state examiner has said that everything looks good and it should be a pretty quick turnaround and everything's organized. But at the same time, they're very busy. So maybe it takes 2 to 4 more weeks from here to actually register and start to be able to market myself as an investment advisor. The the launch of this, I I think is teaching me a lot of things. I mean, even on day one, I'm finding myself just talking a lot to myself in my head about like, what have I done? What am I doing? And I think if I wasn't asking myself those questions, then this wouldn't be the right time to do it. Before even leaving, just to give you guys some context, I had spent 10 years at Vanguard and 2 years at Charles Schwab. Most of those on the advisor side, either managing teams, managing uh, development programs for advisors, or being an advisor myself most recently. The the thought of leaving, again, two of the best companies there are in the country, to do something on my own, I needed to have a lot of confidence, one, in myself and in my ability to do this, but I also needed a lot of stability from my other half. And so my partner, my wife, is gainfully employed. She has a relatively stable job. There are benefits like health insurance coming from that side. And so when I talk about some of these things, just know that I am in an extremely privileged position to be able to do this. Your situation might not look like mine. And so take everything into consideration, right? You might be in a position that's actually better because maybe you're on the younger side. You've just left living with your parents. Your expenses aren't as high. My wife and I, we own our home. You're looking at our beautiful backyard. There is a mortgage attached to that. We have two young kids. They're both in daycare. There is a large amount of cost attached to that. The food whatever. My expenses, my life, my journey is not going to look exactly like yours, but hopefully you're able to take something from this that gives you, again, some peace of mind and some confidence that you too can do this. Because honestly, having done this type of job for 12 years now, I don't really think there's any better job in the world. Being able to allow my clients to retire comfortably and with dignity, or gift to their children and not have their retirement impacted, or their family, or some charity that they care about deeply, that is immensely fulfilling to me. And when I think about the why behind why I'm doing this now and launching this myself, I really want to always come back to that mission of what I'm doing this all for, and it's in service to other people. I think because of that, because I'm doing this for the right reasons, and because I have a lot of passion behind that, that gives me purpose and fulfills me every day, that is going to be a driving force in making sure that this business can be successful. If, again, you're on the early side of this and you're just starting your journey, or you've just passed, or you're thinking about taking the CFP exam, again, I really don't think there's any better job than this one. Whether you work for one of the large companies or for yourself, I really think that there's an immense amount of opportunity to build a really solid life. I was compensated fairly, I would say, at my previous two employers. It's just that when I look at how I was able to provide advice and the way that I wanted to do that, and then taking a look too at the familial side and what I wanted my life to look like. Um, I love being a dad. I really want to spend as much time with my kids as possible. And while I think that going independent and being self-employed will actually take more time than being employed by somebody else, the time that I take is mine to figure out where and when I'm going to take that time and how I'm going to use that time. So being able to be intentional with my time, being able to be home for the big events or even the small ones when daycare calls and they're sick, I don't have to kind of play tug of war with my wife to figure out which one of our meetings are more important. I know that I can drop everything that I'm doing, go pick them up and spend the time with them. So today I wanted to talk through some of the big questions that are probably top of mind for you. One is, what is this channel? I've kind of gone over this a little bit, but it's really just going to be my own personal diary of what this looks like on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. Again, this is day one that you're tracking me out, and I probably won't even go live as an RIA for another 2 or 3 weeks. So today I really want to talk more about like what was the process to start the registration, who am I working with, what has helped me, and what would I maybe have done differently if I had gone back a few weeks ago. Um, so why did I leave a good job is the first question that I wrote down. And maybe my past self is trying to goad me. But really it was about all those things that I just mentioned. It's trying to make sure that the time that I take is for myself. And I've always just been more entrepreneurial. My dad and my uncle, actually my family going back to my great-grandparents, they owned a wool clothing store in Princeton, New Jersey called Landau's. It was in business for 106 years, I think, at the end, all told. I worked in the store growing up. I mean, I remember being 6 or 7 and playing in the clothing racks and playing hide and seek with my siblings. So that side of it. And then my mom was a horse trainer. Again, I genuinely do come from a very privileged background. So if some of the things I say are like, I grew up on a horse farm, my mom was a dressage trainer. Um, like I know what that means for me and the things that it gave me in my life, believe me. And I'm still benefiting from them now, especially as I sit in my backyard and I talk to you. But I just want to give you guys some context and some background around like my entire life has been built and influenced by people that were always self-employed and working for themselves. And it weirdly, graduating from college, they encouraged me to go work at Vanguard because self-employment really scared them. I graduated from college in 2013, and they just felt like the best and worst parts of being self-employed is that you owned all of the responsibility and all of the decisions. And in some ways, they didn't want that for their children. I found a great job that paid for all my licenses, that had benefits right out of university. It wasn't really great paying, but it offered me a lot of prospects and opportunities to be promoted and start generating a little bit more revenue on my own. So the reasons why I left Schwab most recently, I actually loved the team that I worked with. My manager was great. The biggest factors are just on the family side and the belief that I really can do this and I can make a difference in my clients' lives, the ones that I serve. It is going to be difficult. I know that because whether it's the companies that I worked for or somebody else, just know that they're going to have pretty strict non-solicit or non-compete disclosures. So me agreeing to that basically means that I can't take any of my client information or any of, I can't reach out to my clients that I had at my previous employer proactively. They really need to dig into whatever there is on the internet to try and find me. And I just don't think that it's realistic to, even if I had amazing relationships with a lot of them, I don't think it's realistic that they would find me or proactively reach out. And so it's more so, how can I prospect? How can I build a practice without those people until that non-solicit or non-compete finishes? Again, I have belief generally that the clients that I worked with, I had amazing relationships with, and I hope they do come back to me. but in terms of, it is very important for me to feel comfortable that I can still pay the bills. I tried to make sure that all of the expectations that I built in my practice for at least the first 2 or 3 years around revenue and profit did not include people that are coming with me from my previous employer. So I just felt like it was the right time. I have a lot of confidence in myself, but also like I am in an amazing position where my wife provides a lot of that stability that we need. Don't get me wrong, my budget is going to be in the negative, and so we have a buffer of cash that we're going to be able to burn through over the next 1 to 2 years. And hopefully by that time, the practice is making enough revenue that we're starting to cover that budget a little bit more. What you probably want to hear a little bit more about is what the setup was like. So I started working with XYPN probably 3 or 4 months before I was thinking even about leaving my previous employer. They had a lot of resources around what it looks like to go independent, what the costs might be, how the tech stack looks. And I would say the most valuable part of all of that is that um, I'm partnering with their compliance to launch and register my RIA. The first meeting that I had with the state examiner, they complimented the business on how organized and how responsive everything was. I think that's putting me in a really great position to launch very quickly. And that might not have happened if I didn't have the help and support of people that basically do this for their daily job. Outside of that, I have Altruist as a custodian. They also have been amazing in terms of the people that I've worked with so far. I'm not going to use their names, but shout out to you if you are watching this. You've been amazing to work with. So really, like the custodial part and the tech stack, the CRM management, the way that I get paid, all of that is kind of set up before my RIA even goes live. The total monthly expenses is probably going to be close to $700 or $800 because on top of XYPN's fee, I also have Zoom, Calendly, Canva, like all these little things that I want in terms of the way that I'll be able to manage the business side, not the investment side. That's probably going to add another $50 to $100 on top of that per month. So basically my household budget is already in the negative, and then the business is going to cost close to $1,000 a month to run. I am very lucky and very fortunate that I have some family and friends that have committed some amount of funds to start. Again, because I have great relationships with them, because they've been able to see me in practice basically throughout the 12 years that I've been in financial services, they have a lot of trust in me, and I really appreciate that because again, from the stability of my family, plus the friends and friends of friends that are committing money to start this business and start with me managing their money and being stewards of their money, that's already going to put me in a really great place to start. What will my business model look like? So when the last decade or so, I feel like the most amount of value that I've been able to provide people and in the way that I'm able to serve them is best described as keeping people that are recently retired in line with their financial plan, even when things get shaky. I tend to be extremely empathetic and trying to put myself in their shoes. And I think that helps keep them on course to not make any wild moves or adjustments that aren't based on their own financial life or their events that are happening in their life. Really, I am a true believer, and this is kind of in the DNA, I think, of anyone that has worked at Vanguard for 10 years or more, that over long periods of time, the thing that you can control to get better investment returns is your discipline to your investment plan. That means rebalancing every few months. That means making sure that the quality of what you own is high. Your ETFs and your mutual funds that provide you broad diversification are low cost. I am a real believer in that. The value of a financial advisor, I actually think, is more as a therapist and a coach to make sure that people stay on course with their financial plan to give them the best chance to reach the success of whatever those financial goals are. And I know that might not seem like a lot of value in practice, but even if I look at April of last year when the tariffs discussion started to kick off, the NASDAQ was down 20% on April 8th, and it ended up maybe 25, 28%. The difference there 50% of your portfolio value if you panicked at the wrong time, having an advisor that can walk you through and give you comfort and peace of mind through that, that can be worth hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars throughout your lifetime. The other side of that too, I feel like when someone is 5 to 10 years from retiring and 5 to 10 years after they retire, there are a lot of decisions that can complicate the process around income planning, whether it is Social Security and when to take it, whether it is planning your RMDs around IRMA limits, whether it is Roth conversions, gifting, QCDs, all of that. I tend to be an expert in trying to make sure that that kind of 15 to 20 year period of before and after retirement looks good, that you can retire comfortably, you can retire with dignity, and you can keep the quality of life that you want. That is where I specialized. I also think from a self-employed perspective and where I'm going to get paid, I also think that's where people tend to need the most help while also having enough assets to make it valid to seek out a fiduciary to work with. I don't necessarily think younger people that even if they're high income, they probably don't need to work with an AUM advisor. I am going to offer one-time financial plans for a fee. If you're 35 or 40 and you just need to figure out what is the most tax efficient way that I can invest and contribute to all of these accounts, when do I need to think about some of these bigger decisions? Do I need to think about deferred comp that my company offers? All of those things can be done in a 1 or 2 off discussion, and you can pay $5,000 or $10,000 for that. That give you tons and tons of value, but you're going to manage your own investments yourself from there until you get closer and closer to retirement. You don't need to pay me or somebody else $20,000 or $30,000 a year to try and make sure that you're staying on track. Because when you're 40, you're probably going to be a very aggressive investor. You don't necessarily need to rebalance over time. You just need to be putting as much money as possible in the most tax efficient way into the market, as long as you don't have short-term expenses coming up. So I'm just going to be calling that basically in my other channel where I'm starting to prospect. That's going to be called the Retirement Red Zone. This is so silly, but I haven't really found that anywhere else. I think it'll be kind of a phrase that I'll coin from the channel. It'll be a part of my website and the content and what I am able to publish. I think that will really resonate with the niche and the people that I'm looking to go after, but also people trying to seek value from working with a fiduciary fee-only advisor on the other side. All right, the last one is what's my current assets under management. So basically, what does day one look like right now? I am currently sitting here on day one with $0 of AUM. I am currently sitting here on day one without an RIA even registered, and I kind of feel great. It is very freeing to just be sitting here talking to you. I really appreciate you watching this, by the way. I mentioned some family and friends that will be joining. I think overall, just realistically, it'll probably be between like 3 and 5 million, and they're also going to get a much reduced rate. So I would expect that, if my normal AUM management fee is 1% on the first 2 million and 0.5% on everything else, I'll probably charge them 30 or 40 basis points on the whole thing. So we're talking about like $10,000 to $15,000 in revenue per year. We're really not talking about getting anywhere close to what I need to be in terms of what I was making before. All of that is going to come from new prospects, from word of mouth, from referrals, hopefully from my family and friends that enjoy working with me, and maybe from you guys. If you're not an advisor yet, or maybe you are an advisor and you feel like everything that you've heard, a client that you have or a prospect that you have would be suited well to work with me rather than you, I would love to have you pass them my way, although I'm not open yet. So I would love for you guys to subscribe to this channel because, again, it's going to be more of a diary. Every few days I'll upload and post a little bit about what's going on and what I've kind of gone through as I'm launching the RIA, and also when I'm actually in practice. So today, or this week, is really about just making sure all the links on the website that I will launch when everything goes live is working. My Calendly is set up, the Zoom is set up. I have my schedule to make sure that I'm diligent in the way that I'm using my time. All of that is kind of part and parcel for week one. Week two is making sure that all of my onboarding documents, all of the DocuSign works. I'll go through it myself when I'm transferring my accounts from my previous employer to Altruist, and that'll be kind of the guinea pig moment to make sure that it's all set up for friends and family. And then once the RIA goes live and I'm registered with the state, those accounts and clients can start to come with me. So I'll be updating you guys throughout the week as to what this looks like. Again, really hope you enjoyed this. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.